Young Turks. Cenk, Uygur, John, Iadarola with you guys. So I'm particularly jazzed about today's show. Particularly jazzed.
I thought you might be.
Okay, so Chris Cuomo gets in a fight. You're gonna be shocked to find out we're gonna defend him. Or at least I'm going to defend him. I don't know what you're gonna say.
Are you besmirching my Italian nature? Is
that that's right.
My people are a little bit fired up these days. Okay.
Right. What am I thinking? Iadarola over here. You gonna go against Italians? So we'll get to that obviously in a second. And then a little bit later in the program, Bill de Blasio's on tonight, live. So check that out at 8 o'clock Eastern, right here, tyt.com. And I'm gonna ask him why he's so unpopular in Manhattan. I'm just keeping it real, okay? So but wait till you get the full numbers. It's fascinating. Obviously, he's running for president, mayor of New York. And then later tonight for the members, you get to watch live. Ron Perlman is gonna be doing Old School with Ben and I, okay? So Hellboy / Sons of Anarchy / 28 other shows and movies. So it'll be great. So that's at 9:30 Eastern tonight. But there's so many great stories in today's show. So I want to get started. So John, what's up?
Yes.
You're gonna have a problem.
What? What are you gonna do about it?
I'll ruin you. I'll throw you down these stairs like a punk.
So there you have Chris Cuomo. I apologize for the delay. I didn't realize that JR had put in his head as the bleeping thing. But so that's CNN's Chris Cuomo, and he was apparently accosted over the weekend by a couple of individuals who were filming him. It's not clear if he knew that he was being filmed. It's much below his line of sight. So I have to imagine he didn't know he was being filmed. But he responded in an aggressive fashion, as you can probably already tell from the beginning there. They come up, they call him Fredo. He's not a fan of that, and he'll expand on that in this next clip.
I thought that's who you were.
No, punk ass bitches from the right call me Fredo. My name is Chris Cuomo. I'm an anchor on CNN. Fredo is from The Godfather. He was that weak brother.
Isn't that your
brother? And they use it as an Italian aspersion. Any of you Italian? Are you Italian? It's an insult to your people. It's an insult to your people. It's like the N-word for us. Wow. Is that a cool thing?
You're a much more reasonable guy in person than you seem to be on television.
Yeah, but if you want to play, then we'll play. If you got something you want to say about what I do on television, then say it. But don't call me a
Hey, listen.
What?
I don't want any problems.
Yeah, you're gonna have a big problem.
What's the problem?
It's a little different on TV. Don't insult me like that.
I didn't insult you.
Call me Fredo. It's like I call you punk bitch. You like that? You want that to be your nickname?
I didn't call you that.
You called me Fredo. You know my name's not Fredo.
I thought your name was.
You did not think my name was Fredo. Don't be lying.
I thought
you want to be a man, stand up like a man.
I'm standing up, man.
You want to be a man, I'm here. Then own what you said.
Hey,
then own what you said.
Listen, man, I don't have a problem with you, man.
You're gonna have a problem.
What? What are you gonna do about it?
I'll ruin you. I'll throw you down these stairs like a punk.
Please do.
Why? So you can sue?
You don't want
to sue?
Well, why don't you do it?
Go take a swing. You want to call me Fredo? Take a swing.
I'm not gonna swing.
Take a swing. Watch your hands.
I'm not gonna
take a swing. Watch your hands. Take a swing. No, come on, boy. Come on, boy. So you want to call me? Call me.
Hey, listen, man. I'm not doing anything.
I'll wreck your. I'll wreck your.
Stop.
You didn't know what you were doing.
Okay, so I have 1,000 things to say about this, but let's start with the fundamentals. If you're not used to it, our senior producer, J.R. Jackson, puts his face when there's a bleep.
I've never noticed that before.
Yes, that's right.
His face was on pretty much constantly near the end there.
There was a lot of cursing there. And so I'm not gonna get to say my favorite line completely because we can't curse here, but I'm going to ruin your, let's say, crap. Okay. Oh my God, I'm gonna be telling that to everybody I run into. Anyway, so the other person that from our staff that of course I was reminded of there was Anna Kasparian, because I knew it and she texted me as soon as she saw the video. She's like, I love that. And she's like, a lot of people are defending Chris Cuomo. She's like, what do you mean defending? Like, what he did was awesome. What's there to defend? Like, she didn't view it as a negative that had to be defended. She viewed it as incredible positive.
I think there's one significant negative that we will get into, of course.
All right, hold.
But I get what you're saying.
Yes, the part, of course, that really got her was when he said, "If you want to play, then we'll effing play." That's such an Anna line.
That's her line, yeah. He also stole her line where she always threatens to throw people down a flight of stairs. He took that from her.
Yeah. Well, now remember the other guy who threatened that, I think, was like the Italian legislator from New York. So it's getting to be a little bit of a theme there. So
Italian thing.
Okay, John. I don't know. John's Italian. I'm Mediterranean. He's Italian. Right? So. And look, we're gonna talk a lot more about this, but the guys that taped this, and we know this because the first place the video showed up is on a right-wing YouTube channel. So they were right-wingers and they were trying to provoke him.
Yeah, that's the first point that I want to make. So the way that this first got onto Twitter was a right-wing media figure talking about his source on this story. So he had tweeted on 8/11/19 in Shelter Island, New York, "My source that sent this in says he was just asking for a photo and thought his name was Fredo from being an avid listener of Rush Limbaugh." And that's the thing. We really, really need to stop pretending that this is a country where we disagree about things. That's not the biggest issue we're dealing with. It's that some of us have an attachment to having what we say and do be reflective of truth and reality, and some people are just liars. That guy did not think that his name was Fredo. The right-wing media person who tweeted that doesn't think that the guy thought his name was Fredo. They're just lying. That's all it is. And the issue is that the incentives are all wrong because their audience, whether it's for whoever's gonna end up seeing this video or the person who follows this Twitter person, does not care if they're lied to fundamentally.
Yeah. So look, I'm gonna get into the Uygur response rule in a second, which is gonna be fun. But first, on that point, the reason you might be wondering why they're right wingers. They say all sorts of outrageous things all the time. Why are they bothering to pretend that they thought his name was Fredo? What a weird lie. Everybody knows that's not true. Everybody in the right wing knows that they didn't really think his name was Fredo, because it sets up their ability to do a feigned offense.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I'm so offended. I'm just an innocent guy stumbled upon Chris Cuomo. I don't know who he is, and I thought his name was Fredo. And all of a sudden, this guy's yelling at me. So everybody make sure that you attack Chris Cuomo, even though I purposely provoked him. But me, I didn't purposely provoke. I am so innocent. And God, I am so offended by what Cuomo said. You're not offended. Get the hell out of here. The whole thing is a scam.
And this is how disingenuous this is. I mentioned this on the Damage Report this morning. So these guys would have you believe that they recognized him, Chris Cuomo, but don't know who he is because they don't watch his show. They thought his name was Fredo because that's what Rush Limbaugh calls him. So they visually recognized a person they don't know from a radio program.
I mean, do we have to bother? But the thing is, we kind of do because the mainstream media won't say it. The right wing lies on a regular basis as a matter of course. That's their modus operandi. No, I can't call the right wing liars. I have to call it even. No, it's not even. He's lying about not knowing his name. Everybody knows it, and it's done on purpose. It's a provocation. And by the way, it's not neutral. The right wing does provocations on a regular basis. I mean, if you think Fredo's bad, you should get a load of what they call me. And I'm so used to it that I'm not easily provoked, but sometimes some guy will wander onto a set that he doesn't belong on and trespass, etc. And so I'll get into the Alex Jones example in a second as well. But understand, and media, look, if you're calling it even, you're actively being misleading to your audience. One side does dirty tricks way more than the other side, almost exclusively. One side purposely lies almost exclusively. You can disagree with the left, but I don't see anyone doing organized campaigns to try to take people down, lie about it, run these scams, etc. on the left, when there's 1,000 of them on the right. And if you're a real reporter and you're objective, you would say, oh, you know what, Cenk, you're wrong. Maybe I found 2 on the left and it turns out 980 on the right. But instead, you do a false equivalency and it lets them get away with stuff like this as if it's Cuomo's fault, as if it's the person who's being attacked who's at fault. Which actually, look, gets me into the Uygur response rule. Once somebody agitates you or provokes you on purpose, as part of an effort to get under your skin, to attack you verbally or otherwise, you don't get to hold the other person responsible when you started the altercation, okay? So now, there's a limit to the Uygur response rule. If Cuomo had pulled out a gun and shot the guy in the head, I'd say, okay, he went too far. He shouldn't have done that.
What if he punched him?
Look, I know it's a fair question, and there are lines. I'm not saying there aren't lines, and guys, please try to make sure that it's not physical. I mean, it took every effort I had not to punch Alex Jones in the face when he broke onto our set. Miraculously, I didn't. Okay,
I was surprised you didn't actually.
Right, so we try not to cross that line. But even if I had, no, look, don't do it. Don't do it. But what drives me crazy is everyone loses focus of the guy who provoked him because he's not a name. So they send out these little minions, like almost literally, right? These little minions, henchmen running around, trying to provoke everyone in the left, the center, anyone who's sane, rational, etc. And then as soon as someone is provoked by the original agitation, everybody forgets the original agitator because he's not famous.
Yeah.
So he's done, or even if he is famous. And all they do is fall for the right-wing scam of, well, we should blame the guy who was attacked.
Yeah.
So stop it. Stop blaming the guys who were attacked. Have you ever been attacked like that? Forget physically, verbally. Like maybe a couple of times in your life, maybe a bully in high school, etc. Now imagine every single day, imagine the worst time you were ever bullied in high school. Again, me, I don't mind, man. I used to kick bullies' ass for all the time in high school. I've told those stories in the post game for our members, etc. So they're coming up, barking up the wrong tree when they come for me. But especially if you're a person who hasn't dealt with that 24/7, and somebody's attacking you and attacking you and attacking you and provoking you, then you're supposed to say things that are perfectly rational. You're not supposed to make any mistakes when you are at your most agitated. And if you make a single mistake or you say something wrong, we're supposed to hold that against you for the rest of your life? My answer to that is hell no. Well, hell no.
Yeah, I don't have it held against you. I do think that keeping it together to the extent that you can is in your best interest. Not only because I strive to be a literal Vulcan, but also because I don't want to give them what they want. And so I've been in situations like that. I've had cameras shoved in my face and people trying to like get under my skin and everything. And I didn't want to have to deal with more of it, and so I just didn't give it to them.
Yeah, I hear you. That's the ideal.
Yeah, Cuomo probably gets it a lot more, I would imagine. I imagine most of the times when he goes out, there's some, like aged frat boy who's getting in his face just like that guy.
And by the way, his family was with him, and that's a whole nother level, man. So one time, some guy started saying and doing things to me when my kids were there. Man, that's it. And then you're gonna say, oh, Cenk, you reacted poorly? No, don't come at me with my little kids next to me. That's insanity.
Yeah.
No, it is 100% your fault. I'm not having a conversation about whether it's our fault or not for how we reacted to you being a douche.
Yeah. Now, before we get back to defending him, but I want to add a little wrinkle, and it starts with his sort of semi-apology on Twitter. So he tweeted this: appreciate all the support, but truth is I should be better than the guys baiting me. This happens all the time these days, often in front of my family, but there is a lesson. No need to add to the ugliness. I should be better than what I oppose. And he did get a lot of support, not just from people on Twitter. There was tons of responses to that. But a spokesperson for CNN said Chris Cuomo defended himself when he was verbally attacked with the use of an ethnic slur in an orchestrated setup. We completely support him. And that's why, let's just stop off briefly for my criticism, which I think I can give since I am Italian. It's not an ethnic slur. I mean, it's adjacent to an ethnic slur, but it's not. And that's how they pitched it by CNN. He said in the video, it's like the N-word for us. It's not. It's not anything like the N-word for us. It's not even the worst thing people call Italians. I could name at least a couple things that I've been called as an Italian that are way worse than Fredo.
Don't do it.
No, I'm not gonna do it. I'm Italian, I can say it. It's like the 5th worst thing you could call an Italian.
Yeah. I begrudgingly agree.
It's not like the N-word. Nothing's like the N-word. Stop saying things like the N-word.
Yeah,
He's agitated, I get it, but it's not like the N-word.
So look, John, you're right, but it falls under the Uygur response rule, which is, okay, he says something a little out of bounds. when directly provoked and completely agitated. So was it the right thing to say? No. Do I give him a 100% pardon? Yes.
Yeah, that's because I'm a Vulcan and you're a Klingon. We get how this goes at this point. So that's where I just briefly want to be like, you only lost me there. Other than that, I get it, and in fact, I love it.
Yeah, I mean, Ben then was joking around with me on text, and Ben Mankiewicz, one of our co-hosts, and he called me Kamal, like as in Kamal Ataturk, a Turkish name, right? I was like, I could list literally 1,000 things that I've been called that's worse. But you have to remember that what Cuomo is agitated about is not the particular name. And now people are all digging up any time that anybody said Fredo on CNN and blah, blah, blah. They're like, fettuccine Alfredo, does that count? Okay, so, right.
It does, actually.
Yeah.
It's very offensive.
No, that's not the point. The reason that Cuomo was so exercised is because they were trying to provoke him, and he knows that. He's with his family, he's on his own private time, and here comes these right wingers trying to agitate him and get in his face and purposely mock him.
Yeah.
And that's what set him off.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, and in that moment, he has that response. In fact, so let me just finish the thought here on the Alex Jones example. If you guys didn't see, although at this point, it's a little hard not to have seen it if you've ever gone on the internet. When Alex Jones busted onto our set in the RNC, in the Republican National Convention, he was trespassing on the set. It was actually Google's set we were doing the show on, and he brought Roger Stone with him. And in the beginning, I'm like, okay, this is annoying, but it's, what am I gonna do, right? And security doesn't exist at the Republican National Convention. It backs the thugs. And then we literally called security because then they got physical, et cetera. And the cops are like, they're Republicans. I don't care. They didn't even kick them out. Yeah. So anyway, but then he put up this really offensive shirt, and that's what set me off, et cetera.
Yep.
And in the midst of that, I yelled at him. Again, shockingly, didn't do anything physical, although we got close. Anna said something to him that she quote unquote shouldn't have said, and the people have been criticizing her ever since. And they're like, are you gonna make her apologize? There is less than a 0% chance. Never, 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 never. Okay.
We were shockingly diplomatic. One of our members actually offered him iced tea.
That's right. That's right. Jimmy Dore offered him the iced tea that was in his mouth that wound up on Alex's face. And they're like, well, I mean, are you gonna make him apologize for that? Hell no. Never, never, never.
Nope.
Okay, look, conservatives think that if someone steps onto your property, you're allowed to shoot them dead. And then they're gonna pretend that they're offended that this guy busts onto our set, breaks the furniture basically, throws stuff around, puts incredibly offensive stuff on our live on our air. And then you're offended somebody called him the wrong word or let go of their iced tea on his face.
It was
You're not offended.
It was just a spit take, classic spit take.
Yeah, if a liberal had done that and somebody had shot him, you'd defend him 100%. You'd be like, hey, he was trespassing. He was trespassing. Stand your ground, right? That's what you would do. Yeah. That's what you would do. So please spare me your BS so-called outrage.
I do have some BS outrage for you though. So if we want to turn now to Chris Cuomo received quite a bit of support after his the video that's been leaked, obviously, but not everybody was a big fan of him as a result of it, including one of the biggest babies in the country, Donald Trump, who tweeted, "Would Chris Cuomo be given a red flag for his recent rant? Filthy language and a total loss of control. He shouldn't be allowed to have any weapon. He's nuts."
No. Hold on. We'll get to the filthy language in a second, but. You're talking about a guy who's easily triggered and shouldn't have weapons? You almost nuked the country because someone called you a dotard. You remember Kim Jong-un insulted him before they became lovers? And he was like, oh yeah, my button's bigger than your button. I can press it anytime. You're talking about how Cuomo's triggered? You of all people? You can trigger Trump with saying almost anything. Any famous person can say anything slightly negative. Hey, your hair's a little out of place. I'll nuke you. I can do anything. That's you orange clown. Okay, and you're talking about not having access to weapons? You have access to nuclear weapons. That's why they should do the 25th Amendment immediately and remove you from office. You're a mentally unstable fool. To show you how stupid he is. This is not the fight you want to pick if you're Donald Trump. You want to fight on your moral high ground. This is your moral low ground. I know if you could ever find it with Trump. But God, this is your particular weakness. out of many weaknesses, but like you get easily triggered. Everybody knows that.
Do you want to see some examples?
Yes.
Well, first of all, I would say if anyone has lost control in the context of this video, it's Donald Trump, who's already selling the t-shirt Fredo Unhinged. You can take a look at this. They're already selling a t-shirt. And the crazy thing is somebody's gonna buy it, even though in 3 days, nobody's gonna be thinking about this. Who would wear that shirt? You'd look like a madman. But that's their supporters. So let's go back. We're gonna show you some historic examples of Trump losing control, getting triggered, and some recent ones. First of all, he was so bothered by how few people attended his inauguration that he literally ordered the crowd photos to be edited, and they were edited. In fact, they were cropped to make it look like the audience was bigger, but he got over it. Except that he didn't, because he still brings it up to these days. He brought up the crowd sizes, not that crowd, but a different crowd size, to the people who just survived a terror attack like a week ago.
In El Paso.
Yes, exactly.
Child. I mean, look, I'm gonna get to Fredo in a second. You
yes,
keep going.
at one point, John Oliver criticized him a couple years ago, so he tweeted this. John Oliver had his people call me to ask me to be on his very boring and low-rated show. I said, no thanks, waste of time and energy. John Oliver doesn't even have politicians on his show. It's not a guest show. It never happened, but he lost his mind. He lost his mind over Broadway. He said the cast and producers of Hamilton, which I hear is highly overrated. No one's saying that. I think it's very well rated, but should immediately apologize to Mike Pence for their terrible behavior because they were rude to the vice president or whatever. A play triggered him. A play's never triggered anything. So you got that, let's see. He got made fun of on a show that, in his defense, doesn't generally mock politicians. It's called SNL. Nothing funny about tired Saturday Night Live on fake news NBC. Question is, how do the networks get away with these total Republican hit jobs without retribution? Likewise for many other shows, very unfair, it should be looked into. This is the real collusion. He accused a sketch comedy show of collusion with who? I don't know. I honestly don't know.
When you get triggered by comedians doing jokes about you when you're the president of the United States, you don't get to go around talking about how other people are triggered. So now let's talk about the Fredo comment. So Fredo in the context of The Godfather, not the slur, okay? People are now saying, hey, Don Jr. tweeted about it, and isn't that ironic? Although with Eric in the picture, there is a real battle for the Fredo title.
Yeah.
Okay, having said that, you know who the real Fredo is? Donald Trump. Donald Trump was the dumb sibling. And Fred Trump knew it. His father was vicious, but successful and smart and savvy business person. And Donald Trump couldn't manage his way out of a wet paper bag. So his dad had to constantly bail him out, give him money, rescue him. 6 different bankruptcies, but on top of that, I remember that story where they admitted it, they confessed this and they had to pay a fine, where Donald Trump was so broke, his father went out and got millions of dollars from one of his casinos and then didn't gamble it. Just so basically gifted him several $1 million, which is illegal, you can't do that, you gotta pay taxes on it, and they paid a fine on it later. But that's what he had to do, he's like, my bumbling, stupid son that I can't get rid of. What a baby, how sad. That's why Trump always says, sad baby. Remember when he used to tweet that all the time? Because that's what his dad called him. His dad thought he was Fredo. And he's like, he sent his lawyer to go down to Atlantic City, bail Fredo out again, that dumb, poor son of a bitch. And so that's what your dad thought of you. He thought you were pathetic. That's why he has such thin skin. That's why he gets triggered so easily, because he knows he's Fredo. And so that's why Trump's like, oh no, you're sad, you're the baby, not me, not like that, he said, not like that, he said. You loser, your dad gave you $413 million and you squandered it. You threw it away because you don't know anything because you're a dummy, okay? You're talking about other people being Fredo? You're lucky your family didn't have a lake.
Oh, I get that reference. Okay, so let's turn to the filthy language, because I think that was his principal issue with what Chris Cuomo said. Donald Trump doesn't like dirty language. So in that tweet, he said it was filthy. Let's jump ahead to the last video. Jared Jackson put together a little mashup of some of our president's language in recent years.
Our country's going to hell. It's going to hell. What the hell are we doing? Knock the hell out of him. My tax proposal cuts the hell out of taxes. I don't give a damn. He gets the nomination, they're gonna sue his off. We'll beat the out of them. Let them beat the out of ISIS also. They're ripping the out of the sea. We're gonna knock the out of ISIS. Gonna knock the out of it. Whoever the hell brought this mic system, don't the son of a to put it in, I'll tell you. You shouldn't pay the best there. But it's political bull. She said he's a and you can tell them to go themselves. You're not going to raise that price. You understand? Listen, you
filthy language. Come on. Look, I don't care about curses at all because we're not hypocrites and we're not little crybabies like the right wing. Where when Donald Trump did, oh, that's a tough guy, way to use curses and get the libs. You're living rent-free inside their heads. Yeah, right? And anytime anyone, liberal or otherwise, that just everyone they have, anyone who's not a monster, they have in the liberal category. Okay, for the rest of the country. Anytime somebody uses the slightest little curse word, they're like, oh, I have the vapors. I have the vapors. They used the curse word. They said hell. Okay, which one is it? Make up your mind. Yeah. I don't know how you live with yourselves being so incredibly stupid all the time. Like literally, they will watch a Trump tape of him cursing, be like, attaboy. They'll watch a liberal cursing. I mean, even much lower cursing. Oh my God, this is why the country's ruined. Nobody's listening to the Bible anymore. This is why the country's going to hell. Oh no, oh no, oh no. How do you live with yourself? Again. God, how do they not see the hypocrisy? I guess that's what happens when you're not that bright.
Perhaps. Just don't swear about it. Okay, I think we should probably take our first break.
Oh, I think so. But I'm just getting warmed up.
Yeah. Yes, we'll return with Godfather 2.
All right, we'll be right back. We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. All right, back on the Young Turks. Lots of comments here. Let's go through them as quickly as we can. Thomas says, here's the headline, right-wingers cry over Chris Cuomo swearing. That would be a more accurate headline, that's right. Jesse22 Ray says, Cuomo has become a Kasparian. It's a great day. I like that. Pork Chop Express says, Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity versus Chris Cuomo, Cenk Uygur. Ding, ding. I'll do that rhetorically. I'll do that verbally, and kind of have.
Yeah, or physically. Yeah, the only exception here is that Sean Hannity actually defended him.
He did.
Although we have to acknowledge that, although I'm not a telepath, I think the only reason Sean Hannity defended him is because Sean Hannity harbors some sort of fantasy where someday a person gets in his face and he gets to shoot them. So that's the reason I think, but he did defend him in his defense.
Yes, I'll leave it at that. Amira writes in, seeing John as a Vulcan and Cenk as a Klingon clarifies so much. What were I don't know why I'm blanking on this. I'll constantly want to call them the Kardashians in Star Trek.
I'm not a nerd. I don't know what the Kardashian Empire, I mean.
Kardashian, that's what it is. So I think that in that equation, Anna would be the Kardashians.
I'm gonna have to think about that more.
Okay. Anyway, Michael Napier says, John isn't a Vulcan, he's a crusher. # boy on the bridge. As in Wesley Crusher. Get that boy off the bridge. Okay, that's a deep Star Trek reference.
Okay, that's basically, as a nerd, that's like calling an Italian Fredo, basically. Don't call me Crusher, okay? I'm gonna throw you down a turbolift shaft, okay? I'm gonna find a Jeffries tube, and I'm gonna.
Okay, all right. Anyway, if you actually did that when you were actually agitated, that would be the greatest thing that ever happened.
Like, I think that's the most intimidating a person can be.
Yeah.
That's thankfully
I
not
will
the truth.
go warp drive on you right now.
Yeah.
But that's not anywhere near as good as the ones you did.
Open up a can of transwarp conduit. Okay, you wanna talk about some animals? I think I've done enough damage to myself. Ben isn't watching, is he?
Oh
that
my God.
just would not be good for me.
No.
Okay, let's talk about some animals actually.
Okay.
And not targs. Anyway, the Trump administration's war against animals continue, this time targeting endangered and threatened species. On Monday, the US Fish and Wildlife Service and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration announced they were pushing through changes to the Endangered Species Act that will, in effect, weaken protections for species and possibly give industry more leeway to develop areas where threatened animals live. So this, to me, reads like The Onion, but it's true, and they're doing it. They're coming after the ESA, the Endangered Species Act. And I wanna give you a little bit of history on the act, what it's intended to do, and what the American people think about it so far. It was passed back in 1973, and since then it's been credited with helping the rebound of the bald eagle, Literally the bald eagle.
Boo, who needs it?
The grizzly bear, the humpback whale, and many other species living throughout the US. About 83% of Americans, including a large majority of conservatives, support the act. And according to the US Fish and Wildlife Service, the act has prevented the extinction of 99% of the species it protects. So it is successful, it is popular, and so obviously it must go.
If dogs were on the Endangered Species Act, Trump would be impeached.
Oh, you should watch this morning's The Damage Report. I went through all of the different dog metaphors he uses. He thinks that, I don't know what he thinks dogs are. The way he talks, people have been fired like dogs, choked like dogs, begged like dogs. They do beg, that's the only one.
Yeah. So look, I'm gonna have a surprisingly nuanced look at this. I'm gonna give you two parts of this that go in two different directions, and then we'll get back to bald eagles and grizzly bears. On the one hand, one of the outrageous parts of this is they're saying that you should not take climate change into account when deciding if some species is endangered. What? Why not? Oh, you shouldn't listen to 99% of the world's scientists when we're trying to figure out a science problem. Like, what are we? Hey, we're gonna do math. I don't want any mathematicians in the room. Okay, see, yeah, then you might be a little bit against the math that's gonna and the results that you know is gonna come out. On the other hand, the current law does not allow you to reference possible economic or other impacts that the rules have. I don't think that makes sense. Now, do I trust the Trump administration to do that calculus right? Of like, they're like, oh, economic consideration. My buddies get to do drilling on public lands and it kills the grizzly bears. Well, I save $5, good enough for me, right? I know that they're not gonna do that right, but I don't think it's right to never consider economic considerations. What if saving one small species or the potential of saving one small species costs us $1 trillion?
Yeah, one small species, one stupid Lorax. Why should we consider these things?
No, I hear you, but I think that we should have the full range of considerations, economic and obviously environmental, scientific, and all of those. And by the way, it's not just about animals. If you're one of the few Americans who don't care about animals at all, and that really is a tiny minority, because people, like, you touch their dogs and you're done for, right? That's the third rail, right? If you talk about people's dogs. You can talk terrible stuff about people's families, themselves, their kids. That's all fine and fair game. Well, they shouldn't have brought the kids here, it's their fault. Yeah, that's right, we should crush the kids. But you talk about their dog, hey, not my dog, right? But it's not just about the animals, guys, it's also about us. If the bees go extinct, we're screwed. Now, look, the bees are not in imminent danger of extinction, but they're in a lot of danger overall. We have massive problems with the bees, but the problem is talking to people who aren't smart. So you talk to the right wing, it's what do I care about the bees? Well, how do I help you if you're an idiot and you don't understand how science works, life works, biology works, and how we're all connected. And if the bees don't spread the pollen, we're all screwed. What do I care about bees? We're not talking the same language. So for example, look, now back to the animals. I think if you told people about, hey, do you want the bald eagles to be extinct? They'd be like, hell no, that's the symbol of American pride, et cetera. Grizzly bears, no. I'm sure they'd be shocked that there's even a possibility. But look, John already gave you the numbers, it's not complicated. 83%, they don't even know the specific animals support this law. He's gonna go against it anyway. But when you talk about, for example, the new ones that are potentially on the extinct species list could go on it. Polar bears, people are like, no, that's in Coke ads. I like polar bears, I don't want them going extinct. Seals, I know seals, no. Whooping cranes, guaranteed the right wing will take whooping cranes out of the list. You'll see it later. Oh yeah, the libs want to protect whooping cranes. They're costing your jobs because of whooping cranes. Like, I know because I already saw this movie. When it was a caribou that was in trouble, they're like, caribou.
I don't know that movie actually.
Yeah, no, not the movie.
Oh, okay. It's like, is that a movie? I guess.
No, I remember Rush Limbaugh talking about, they care about the caribou, right?
Yeah.
By the way, if you just called them deer, they'd be like, whoa, that's Bambi. No, we got to protect the deer. So I don't know, maybe we just dumb it down so that the right wing can understand it. Trump is gonna go after Bambi.
Yeah. So I would also say, I think that this is a great example, and I'm just gonna go a second over. This is a great example of where we've gotten into a position where there are people, there are passionate environmentalists, passionate pro-animal people. We feature them on the Damage Report all the time. But it's not a mainstream position, and neither of the two parties has really taken it seriously at all. Even after like portions of the Green Movement were incorporated in the Democratic Party, it hasn't been pushed. We're now, like, the centrist position is defending the ESA, which is legislation from more than 50 years ago. That's not like, yay, let's save the ESA. The ESA should be the ground floor that we build far more bold proposals based on. I don't want to just stop them from expanding the areas that can be infringed by corporations. I would make massive national parks throughout the US. I would blanket it with new trees to help absorb some of the carbon and help mitigate some of the effects of climate change. I would go way, you wouldn't even be able to see the ESA from where I would end up if I was in charge of the legislation, but nobody has really been pushing for anything on top of the ESA for literally decades, in elected government at the very least. And so that's where we are, where we've just been hanging on to these vestiges of the environmental movement from half a century ago, and now the right wingers have taken over and they get to shred it in the pursuit of corporate profits.
So last thing on this is important context. You know who passed the Endangered Species Act back in 1973? Richard Nixon.
Yeah.
Now, Richard Nixon was a little right of Attila the Hun. So why did he pass it? He also founded the Environmental Protection Agency. Was he a huge environmentalist? No, he hated environmentalists. He did it because back then progressives were so strong that we bent Nixon to our will. He was afraid of, you know who he was really afraid of? Ralph Nader. I'm not kidding. Look it up.
Yeah.
So that's why he did OSHA to protect American workers and their safety because of Nader's raiders. Now, why were progressives so strong back then? And now since then, as John pointed out, we haven't been able to add on to it at all. And we've been going constantly playing defense and going backwards. Because in 1976 and 1978, the Supreme Court said corporations can give money to politicians. And then we were done for. It's the corruption, stupid. That's the answer. Why would someone take away a law or damage a law that 83% of Americans are in favor of in a democracy? Because we don't have one. It's the corruption, stupid. They bought off all of our politicians because of those two Supreme Court cases. You've got to amend the Constitution to go above the Supreme Court. Wolf-pack.com.
We go to our second break?
You know what, ironically, that would also protect the wolves.
That would be a win-win.
There you go.
Yeah.
No wonder we called it Wolfpack.
Yeah.
All right, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, we have so much more for you guys, including mainstream media going after Bernie Sanders. But here's the twist. Finally, he fights back. So we'll do that when we return.
Animals are innocent.